When we look around us, the life is full of all kinds of wonders scattered in the world are different creatures with distinct qualities and characteristics. A close look at the creation shows that from inanimate things to the human beings there have been a gradual progress of sense, perception and will. The basic forms of inorganic matter show a complete lack of sense and perception. Some other kinds of material show a faint trace of some kind of life. In growing plants, involuntary presence of senses can be felt. In the animal world, along with the senses, there is some kind of will. In human beings, the power to control their thoughts, actions and desires make them the most responsible of all created beings. The degree of responsibility in other creatures is proportional to the degree of free will given to them. The inorganic are entirely free from all responsibility. Plants are subject to the laws of life and death. In the animal world, the responsibilities are increased further, but it is mankind that is bound by obligations all over. Within their own kinds, the mentally ill, the idiots and children on the one side, and the adults, the learned and the intellectuals on the other, have to bear the burden of responsibility according to the power of perception and will present in them. Look at it from another perspective. Nature's power of creation and sustenance takes care of all the needs of the created beings, but gradually the burden of responsibility is put on the creature itself as it develops its own sense and willpower. Who creates and nurtures the precious jewel in the hearts of the mountains? Who rears the fish in the depth of oceans? Who look after the beasts of the jungle? Who cares about the animals in the cold of winter and the heat of summer and heals their sick? Who will notice an apparent difference in the paws, the hair, and the color of their skin and their looks even among the same species of animals, depending on the difference in their habitat? The needs of the dog of Europe and that of Africa are different, and nature provides for them from its own resources. For example, the European dog's coat is woolier and thicker than the African's. These are some of the various ways how nature provides for their different needs, and they also show how it compensates and covers up wherever there is a weakness of sense and willpower. And in nature's creatures who are given this power in a greater degree, and when they reach a stronger and maturer state, nature automatically withdraws itself and leaves them free to look after their needs themselves. For example, man has to work for his living, which is not provided to him directly. He has to bear the burden of cultivation. He has to plant and grow his own food. He is not born with woolly skin for protection against severe winter. He has to make his own clothes. He has to find his own cure for his illness, and he has to nurse his own wounds. On the other hand, wherever there is a weakness of sense and perception, nature itself provides for the defense and protection of life. Different animals have been given different means of defense, such as sharp claws, pointed teeth, the ability to fly, and the ability to run fast. Some have been given a poisonous sting, others have been given poisonous fangs. In short, they have been armed with various devices of self-defense. However, man does not possess any of these weapons. He does not have the pointed teeth and strong paws of a lion, nor the long trunk and strong tusks of an elephant, nor the sharp horns of a bull, nor the poison a snake, nor the sting of a hornet or a scorpion. Outwardly, he seems utterly defenseless and vulnerable, yet he is able to overpower the long-tusked elephants, the fiercely strong-pawed lions, and fearfully poisonous snakes. He can catch the free-flying birds into his snares and trap the creatures of deep waters. He can produce all kinds of defensive and offensive weapons. Man can achieve all this because he has given tremendous powers of mind, sensory perception, reason, and a free will. There are the powers that compensate his outer weaknesses, and these are the powers that distinguish him from other creatures. My friends, no matter what your creed or religion might be, you cannot deny that it is these very powers of mind and will which make you responsible human beings and make you accountable to the creator of your actions. In terms, the burden of free will fell to man's lot. The freedom of choice between good and evil has made him accountable for his actions. Other creatures do not have the freedom of action, therefore they have no responsibility. In this context, being unjust means transgressing the limits. This reflects the imbalance in the use of man's physical powers, whereas being foolish or ignorant means crossing the limits of his his mental powers. The counterpart of unjust is just, and the opposite of ignorant is knowledgeable. These are the qualities he does not, in fact, possess. In order to achieve them, he needs to strike a balance in his physical and mental faculties. He needs justice or moderation in the application of his physical power, and he needs to replace his ignorance by knowledge and insight. If we see in the last holy book, which is called Quran, in the Quranic term, the first faculty is known as the righteous deeds, whereas knowledge means faith in Allah, the creator and sustainer of the universe. Consider the following verses of the Holy Quran. I swear by the time man is in a state of loss indeed, except those who believed and did righteous deeds and exhorted each other to follow truth and exhorted each other to observe patience. The loss mentioned in these verses represent the transgressions and ignorance of man, the imbalance in his physical and mental powers, and its remedy lies in faith, which means true knowledge, and in moderation, which means righteous deeds. In other words, man remains in perpetual loss unless he attains a balance in the use of his physical and mental powers by gaining faith and righteous deeds. As a witness to this fact, Allah has brought in the evidence of time through ages. This means the events of man's own history since the inception of this world. According to Thomas Carlyle's famous remark, history is only the biography of great men. The history of men and nations clearly shows that all great men and all nations have always been the losers who lacked the essential qualities of faith and righteous deeds. All the heavenly and religious books, moral stories, and other records of human success and failure tell the tale of the eternal conflict between good and evil, between the darkness of ignorance and the light of faith. On the one hand, you can see the forces of oppression, ignorance, evil, and gloom, and on the other, justice, righteousness, goodness, and light. These tales are full of praise for those who recognized and accepted the burden of human responsibilities, and condemnation for those who failed and refused to carry the human burden. The Greek Iliad, the Roman parallel lives, the Persian epic Shahnameh, and the ancient Indian Mahabharata and Ramayana and Gita are nothing but the classic tales of that eternal conflict. Every nation has derived moral lessons from the biographies of its great men and learned from their lives the examples of good and evil, knowledge and ignorance, operation and justice, belief and disbelief, so that they could avoid the dire consequences of evil, ignorance, and operation, and benefit from the examples of goodness, knowledge, justice, and faith. Of the heavenly books, such as the Old and the New Testament and the Holy Quran, the main themes are the same: examples of the woeful and of the wicked, oppressive, and faithless nations or individuals, and the triumph of the just, the good, and the believers. Their purpose was to convert the oppressors to believers